Hi, this is Afemo Omilami, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast,
the show where we argue on how or why a xenomorph should wear a hat.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 125. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Forrest and Bubba in the army in their quest to keep their beds made and to stand up straight, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his shoe polish.
All right, guys, our guest today is a longtime actor who has been in some of the biggest movies in cinematic history. You've seen him in Forrest Gump, The Hunger Games, Terminator Genisys, Remember the Titans, and honestly, he has a very impressive IMDb resume, and that list continues with so many more amazing titles. We are very happy and very proud to welcome Afemo Omilami to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show, Afemo.
Thank you for having me.
And for only slightly butchering your name.
I paused on the last name to make sure that I was landing the plane. I felt confident about the first name. The last name, I had to land the plane, so I had to stop and really process that.
I can do this.
Look,
I can do it.
Fun. We're having fun already. That's what
Let's go.
Right?
There we go.
The fun might be at the expense of our friends, but ta-da! That's what we do.
Here we are, nonetheless. All right, Afemo, I must say I was impressed by your list of credits I found on IMDb. We're excited, though, to talk to you about your latest credit, a movie called Freedom's Path. Now, and that looks like it was just released about a week ago in select cities. Now, if you would, please, could you kind of walk us through this movie? Tell us what you can about the movie, your character, and how you got involved with what looks to be such an amazing project.
Well, I think it's a movie about a friendship between two young people during the Civil War, when most of us probably think the Civil War, bloody, brother fighting against brother, fighting for freedom for the slaves. Yes, it is that, but it goes deeper. And the part that I'm called to play has to do with a Harriet Tubman type situation where I'm trying to usher people to freedom at great risk, but with the help of what we call, I love it how they say in the movement, the good white people play their part in all of this, because there wouldn't have been a movement back in that day, as well as in the civil rights movement, if the good white people didn't play a critical part, as you know, in the underground movement. They were necessary, and many of them risked their lives and got killed and maimed and hurt. So it's showing what people who have freedom on their minds can do when they come together to help one another. And to me, that is the essence of Freedom's Path, is finding our way out of the lie together and being freed up from the lie together. That's the path called Freedom's Path. And the gentleman I play is called Freeman, Ellis Freeman. So Brett came to me and said, would you be interested? I said, look, I don't want to play any more slaves, any more guys getting beat and hung and whipped. I've played enough of that. He said, no, this is different. This guy is free, and he willingly puts his life on the line to usher other people to freedom. I said, that's the guy I want to play right there. So that's how he pulled me in, because he knew I had enough of the other stuff. But this is a story most people don't know. There were a lot of free Black people in the South while the Civil War was going on. They chose to stay there and try to create a life for themselves. And out of that, you had people who did what Harriet Tubman did, usher people to freedom every chance they got. And of course, they were wanted, they were hunted. It was just relentless, the war going on against them. And all the while, they're hoping that the Civil War would bring freedom to them. But, as we know, that didn't actually work out the way they thought. But nonetheless, they stayed true to trying to help people, find a way to a better life. That's the essence of it.
Okay. Yeah, it looks to be. I've always fascinated by Civil War era history, and I'm fascinated by those who did what you talked about in this movie, who put themselves on the line for many times for people they didn't know, people that they had no association with, but they just knew what was morally right, the right thing to do, and so they were doing it. And so I'm always kind of fascinated by that era and the people who did things like that. So I haven't had an opportunity to see the movie yet, but I'm very excited to sit down and have a chance to see it. Matter of fact, tomorrow afternoon we're sitting down with with Brett, the director, Brett Smith, and talking with him as well about this movie and a few other things. So, but yeah, it looks to be an amazing project. I watched the trailer and read up a little bit on it this afternoon.
And look, you're going to find out that Brett Smith is a very determined person who knows persistence is the key, because this has been his baby for several years.
Yeah.
To finally bring it to this point. That tells you a lot about who this man is, his character, his determination to tell this story. And he didn't sell out when others tried to get him to compromise. He said, no, I want it presented this way. And he stuck to his guns. And I have even more respect for him now than ever, because this business can be ruthless and brutal.
Sure.
But he didn't let any of that deter him from telling a story that he had to tell. And the way he shot it, so beautiful on the budget he had. You would think this guy was had a lot of money, because he shot it so beautifully that's just a labor of love from a person who loves what he's doing. I don't know how he pulled that rabbit out the hat, but he did. And when you see the movie, you will see, oh, wow, they did this on an independent budget? How did he do that? I mean, it's amazing. So well done.
I was noticing that even with the trailer. I was watching, like I said, it's out on YouTube right now, but I was watching that this afternoon. I noticed even with the cinematography in the trailer, I thought, wow, because I know this is an independent movie, and I thought, wow, this is a really good cinema, because usually even in the trailers for most independent movies, you're like, yeah, it's an independent movie. This one might have been shot on an iPhone, and but that is not the case with this. This is a very, it looks to be a very well done movie. There's a handful of good name quality stars in this movie that people will recognize and enjoy their performances. And I tell you what, there's a couple people in the trailer where goodness, I can't remember his name right now, but he's yelling, he's the bad white guy, and he's just screaming in the trailer, and I was like, oh boy, I already don't like him. All right, let's So
you
I think the trailer
have that person.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on, what's the movie without that guy?
Right.
Somebody got to do it.
Somebody has to.
We all hated him,
Absolutely.
We didn't talk to him or deal with him at all until after the film was over. Then we showed some civility and some humanity. But other than that, we hated the guy.
Oh, goodness.
Fair enough.
So, Afemo, Tim mentioned that you've had quite the acting career, and that acting career has been part of many different well-known and loved franchises. I personally am like, hey, it's the mayor of District 11, because Hunger Games is one of my favorites. I loved the books, I loved the movies. But which of the fictional worlds that you've gotten to be a part of through your career do you think would be the most fun to go to for a vacation?
It surely wouldn't be the Hunger Games.
No, Panem would not be on the top of my list.
I can tell you that much. You couldn't pay me to go up in the Hunger Games.
No, thank you.
What fictional world? I have to admit, I like that world of Forrest Gump. I like that world because it takes you through the decades and it makes sense, the line of movement. And I could relate to that personally because it covers the scope of my life.
Mhm.
So I could easily go back into that world where the fiction is superimposed on the nonfiction. That works for me, definitely. And any story about grace, it captures my heart because in the real world, a guy like Forrest Gump would have been crushed, pushed down, kept in his place, told this is as far as you can go in life because of what they interpret as a disability.
Mhm.
But on the spiritual side, life said, no, we're going to elevate him and give him a place that life determines, not what people in society. I love stories like that.
Yeah.
Because here's a guy that normally would be found on the bottom of life, not having the opportunity and success that we see he enjoys in the movie. Anytime that happens, I'm for that guy always, because I'm for the little guy. I'm for the guy who would normally get that break.
Yeah.
So he represents that to me, and that's the kind of fictional world I would like to go and visit.
I love that answer. I love that answer. And I love the people who are for the little guy. The little guy needs the love.
Absolutely. In today's world, my
Especially,
Lord.
yeah.
Yeah, he needs us pushing for him. He needs us pulling for him, the underdog. I'm the underdog type guy.
Mhm.
Love it.
Love it.
And part of what makes this podcast happen is that those stories and the stories of, like the little guy, being able to get up and ahead, and like even through various different sci-fis, you have a bunch of different people who, achieve the greater goal. But basically, like you said, we love stories. And could you tell us a funny moment or something that had happened on set?
Well, it wasn't too much fun when it happened. I was shooting the scene in Terminator,
Mhm.
and the guy kept telling me, he said, look, put this in your ears because this is about to get crazy. So I said, okay. And not knowing he had a huge 50 caliber over my head about to shoot.
Ooh.
So I'm trying to do the scene and the gunfire is about to blow my ears off of my head. And I'm trying to say, I want more, give me some more stuff. Nobody would hear me. They just kept firing away. So by the time the scene ended, I couldn't hear myself. I couldn't hear what they're saying. I'm like, oh man, you guys just messed me up. What is wrong with you guys? They somehow enjoyed it because they said, well, we tried to tell you, Mr. Omilami. I'm like, man, if y'all don't get away from me right now, I am going to terminate somebody up in here. So that was a horrible experience, but in hindsight, it was funny because they did try to tell me, and I had no idea what was about to happen. Those stunt guys and guys dealing with weapons, they're a whole nother culture of people.
Right?
They play by their own rules, and they may invite you in that world and may not, And I learned a great lesson. Like, okay, I got it now, guys. I get it. Okay. So yeah, they had fun with that. They had fun at my expense. But it was good. We got through it.
Yeah, we've talked to several stunt people over the course of this show, and each time they're talking about things that they're doing, jumping off these buildings and rolling down these massive hillsides and bumping into rocks and logs. And they're like, I was a little hurt, but I was fine. It was fun. I'd do it again. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah, they are a bit nuts, some of the ones I've met. Yeah, I think that's part of it. They
have to be.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit.
And I shake my head and I said, guys, man, y'all, that's all I can say to them. But I'm glad they do what they do, because the product always comes out better when you see them fully committed the way they are. Mm-hmm. They inspire everybody, then you got to give your performance. If this guy's risking life and limb to do this thing, you got to bring it, So that's how I honor those guys, by trying to bring my best, because I see them risking it all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great outlook on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that in turn they appreciate it as well. So, they're giving their best. They see you giving your best. It ends up being, it improves the whole quality of the product at the end.
That's the way it has to be, because as you know, with the latest news, when it goes wrong, it can go terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's a lot at stake doing what they do, and the connection with the actors. We all have to watch each other's back and respect what the craft is, because it can mean the difference in, as we all know, in life and death.
Absolutely.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
All right, Afemo, let's switch gears just a little bit here. One of the questions I love to ask our guests when they come in, especially when somebody who's been in the business for a while, like yourself, is I want to know, mainly because, well, the three of us, we're self-admitted nerds. We like superheroes and we like sci-fi, and we love hearing the origin stories of our heroes. And tonight, you are the hero of that story. So we want to know your origin story. We want to know what got you into acting, what keeps you coming back. What was your inspiration for getting started here?
My high school drama teacher started me on that path in the 8th grade in a little town called Petersburg, Virginia, a city, country city, you know what I mean, where you pass through it, a few lights, but she had been a professional, and she decided to come to a small town and give her best to a group of students who wouldn't have known left from right. And she inspired me, Mrs. Marie Manigault. She's still alive. And I got to go back and tell her one day, I owe you so much, because had you not infused in me this zeal, this desire to explore, I said, I doubt if I would have followed this path. So I got to tell her that, and that meant so much to her and to me.
Awesome.
I needed to do that. And that's how it started for me in high school. And I just continued it on into college. I was a political science major at Morehouse College, right in Atlanta, Georgia, school of Dr. King and a lot of great people. And the drama department was in the facility that belonged to the women's college across the street. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, this could be interesting then. So I started going in at Spelman College, a famous college.
Yep.
And just doing it for fun, because somebody said, hey, if you do theater, you're going to have the girls. That's all they had to tell me. I'm like, oh, yeah. I said, okay, let me try this. And they were right. You were it. If you were over there in the drama department, you had no problem with the ladies. And I was like, man, why didn't they tell me this long ago? I didn't know this. And that's how it got me in. And I became great friends. Sam Jackson and I, we went to school together.
Okay.
That's how we started, because he said, they told me that I could get the women here too. I said, well, let's find out, man. And we had
That's
great
awesome.
fun. He is quite a character. Me and another actor named Bill Nunn and Sam's wife, LaTanya Jackson Richardson. We became great friends. And we got to do our first motion picture together while we were still in school, directed by Michael Schultz, who's an editor, who most people know him as an editor now in Hollywood.
Okay.
But Michael Schultz gave us all our first break in motion pictures. 1971, a film starring Clifton Davis, who's a preacher now. And that's how we all got our first break in the business. And we said, wait a minute. Somebody stopped us one day and said, you do know you can get paid to do this. We were saying, what? Somebody would pay me to have this kind of fun? I said, come on, don't kid me. They said, no, really. That's how naive we were. I would have paid them to let me do it. Somebody stopped me one day and said, no, you can actually get paid for this. And I'm like, the women, you get paid? I'm like, what? Oh, how this is? Oh, man, I was such a naive kid, just like at Christmas. I was a kid at Christmas. And it was all
science
fun
out
and
the window.
games, Yeah, right. And that's how it all started for me, and I never stopped.
Excellent.
From that point.
That's a great intro story. I love it.
I love that.
It's
And
true,
it is so
It's a true
true,
story.
though.
Yeah,
It is so true. The theater boys get the girls.
I definitely. Then I learned how to use that. I come here. Oh man, they really love that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
I went Barry White on them.
Man, I was 0 for 2. Nobody told me about
the
this.
deal.
Yeah, when I was a kid, nobody told me about that was the way to meet girls was through the theater.
Man, you missed out, bro. I'm sorry, man. You missed out.
And number 2, I ain't got the deep voice. I can't do that. If I do that, I walk in there like, you okay? Do you need some Vicks? A cough drop maybe?
You need a lozenge.
You sound like you have a scratchy throat. Here's some hot tea.
People still try to tell me, do you need to go see the doctor? My wife keeps asking me that. I said, no. Sometimes, it settles. I don't know what causes it. It happens. And then it will go away and come back. And I'm like, I'm good with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
It happens.
But that started me on the road. And I never really looked back.
That's excellent. So what keeps you coming back though? What is it about acting that makes you say, this is why I got into it, but this is why I keep doing it?
The ladies and the money, Tim.
When I came up, there were very few images to relate to. And of course, I saw Sidney Poitier and I said, wow, I want to be like him. As I got older, I could appreciate. I said, I want to be like him. And Clarence Williams III from the Mod Squad. We all wanted to be like him with the big afro, the cool sunglasses. He's riding a motorcycle and he's kicking butt. I'm like, man, I said, I want to be between Sidney Poitier and this guy. I was inspired by them. And I like the idea that I could be almost every man. And I didn't realize that was a possibility for me as a young Black kid. You mean I can be all these different people? I thought I just had to be this guy. And that really expanded my universe when I found out, wow, I like this. I said, yes, yes, and yes. So older in my career, I went to the famous Chinese theater.
Okay.
And I said, what do I want from this place? So I found Sidney Poitier's handprints, and I said, I want some of his essence of what he had. I'm one of these kind of guys. I told you that. I put my hand in his handprint, and I said, okay, I want some of what you got. Okay, come. After I did that, I looked over, and there was Gregory Peck's handprint. And I always thought he was just really fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I want some of his too. So I put my handprints into Gregory Peck's. I said, I want some of your essence, some of your mojo, Gregory Peck. And I just felt I got some kind of touch from both of those great people, because I wanted to be a blend of what they both brought.
Sure.
That's how I think as a creative person, you know, as a spiritual person, that can be drawn up into what happens to you. And it looked like it energized my career from that point on. I can honestly say it looked like it took an upturn for me to be able to be more. I know that may seem crazy, weird to some people, but to me, it worked.
Right.
Yeah.
It worked. And I haven't shared that story with a lot of people, you know, because I don't want folks to be saying, oh, man, wow, okay, he's weird, he's tripping out. You got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
And don't worry, it fits in over here. We're already weird. We trip out a little bit. It's okay. We're all good. So
that was a turning point in a way for me that I needed. You know, whatever you got to do to get you out of that fog, out of that depression, out of that being stuck place. Being stuck place is what I call it.
Okay.
Break out of it. And that's what I needed. And I felt those guys, whatever they still had in those handprints, gave that to me. And it pushed me on further.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, I need to go to the Chinese theater. I
I
need some of that. I need some of that to get out of the stuck place.
I'm gonna go find some of Johnny Carson's prints and put my.
They
hands
don't
in
even
those.
do that anymore. I don't think they do the hands in the cement.
I think it's just stars on the walkway now.
Yeah, you get your star on the walkway, but they don't do that part. That was for the old school star.
Yeah.
That's why I consider it as a powerful place, because they actually put their juice, their energy, their essence. And as you know, energy, it lingers a very long time, you know, and boom. So,
very cool.
That's really cool.
I hope a lot of young people don't start, you know, well, let me rush over there. No. It has to be something organic that you didn't even plan. It just comes out of what that moment in your life tells you.
Sure.
That's how I can put it, you know?
That actually makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense to me. I promise you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Because of how loving and caring of a person you seem to be, you already showed that you are, and how you've stayed humble. That actually helps some of your other work that I wanted to talk about as well. Because in addition to your acting work, you work with your wife, Elizabeth, who's the CEO of Hosea Helps, which is an Atlanta-based food bank, which was started by your father-in-law over 50 years ago.
Yes.
So what can you tell our viewers and our listeners about what Hosea Helps does and how they can get involved in helping with its mission?
The only reason I am somewhat sane today is because of serving with Hosea Feed the Hungry and Homeless, also known as Hosea Helps, because it balanced me off. Our business can have you tilted out of balance in that make-believe la-la world that you work in a lot. And if you don't have a foundation in what's really going on in people's lives, you're not going to be connected. So while I was building a career, my wife and I, who's a wonderful actress on her own, Elizabeth Omilami, we were serving the poor, the hungry, the downtrodden. Her dad had been one of Dr. King's right-hand men who was always out with the people. And he taught us that it's about the people, serving them. So he was not only my father-in-law, but my mentor, my teacher. And he showed me how to stay grounded and connected. So when he passed in 2000, Elizabeth and I became the leaders. Not that we set out that way, because I wanted to come out into Hollywood and build a real career. But they gave us a choice, well, you guys have been doing this in the background all this time. You guys know more about how this works. Will you come and take hold of this? Whoa, we had to search ourselves out, because we knew it was going to be a commitment that we couldn't just play around with.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided then and there we were going to do that. And that was in 2000. And here 22 years, going on 23 years later, we've been doing it. And it's taken us all over the world, serving the poor, the nobodies, the untouchables. How could you not be humble?
Right.
When you've seen people in terrible conditions in India, Africa, the Philippines, throughout the Caribbean, in Europe, and it molded us and shaped us to be the kind of servant leaders we are today, and still trying to work on a career as well. But it grounded us so well that we couldn't be taken away with ourselves, because we saw what is going on in the real world. And that changed us dramatically. We couldn't help but try to come and find the most authentic self we could present.
Sure.
Right.
So I owe my life and sanity to Hosea Helps. It kept me from being out there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Our business will offer you so many opportunities to be in so much stuff that's bad for you. It feels good at the time, the pleasures, the women, the money, the fame, all the stuff it can do. But it can also take your soul in the process, and you don't even know you've given your soul up for it. All you know is you're enjoying all the trappings, all the stuff.
Right.
So I'm so thankful that that opportunity came to me and my wife. It has balanced our lives off. We couldn't be who we are today without it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I may not be the biggest star. Everybody know my name and all that stuff, but I've been blessed enough to be a part of classic movies.
Sure.
Which is what it was, the answer to prayer. As people used to ask me, would you rather do 50 movies, make a lot of money, but 10, 20 years later, most people couldn't remember, or do 5 or 12 movies that people will talk about 100 years from now? I'll take the latter. I want the classic.
Sure.
To be a part of all of that, because that is the legacy that people are going to remember. Out of all the stuff you did, there's only going to be a handful of things that last the test of time.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some of that. And and get to serve the poor, the people too. Come on, I got the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. One of my former employees told me, he said, we can go out there and we can work. I used to do in architectural sales. And he said, we can go out there, we could win every job, and we could, but we're going to burn ourselves out at the end of the day. He says, or we can do just a smaller handful of jobs, do a good job, and when we go home at night, we can put our head to rest knowing that we gave it everything that we could, and we did what was best for us and our community. And, so I kind of feel the similar, a little bit there with what you're trying to say, is that at night, it sounds like you got to go home and rest your head quietly and comfortably. There's nothing like a night of sleep that you get from having a clean conscience, knowing that you're doing everything that you can, that you're doing the right thing and you're doing the good things in life. instead of getting caught up in all this other stuff that the world can throw at you. Sounds like you've been pretty well grounded throughout your life because of being not only who you are, but being involved with Hosea Helps and other projects. So.
And look, when you stand on the shoulders of people like Hosea Williams, my iconic father-in-law, and Dr. King and Andrew Young, and you walk very carefully because you never want to bring shame or disgrace to what they built.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Had they not walked that road, I surely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I owe it to them to bring my best with dignity and respect, and not bring disgrace or shame to them in any shape or form. This is a civil rights town I live in. The history is so deep everywhere you look.
Right.
And my wife was raised in that, had gone to jail with her dad and protesting and been beaten. And so it's hard not to bring that as a part of what you will always be.
Mm-hmm.
A part of the struggle, freedom's path. So it only makes sense that this would come in line with what our history has been. We couldn't have made this stuff up. But it all comes together, the synchronicity of it.
Yeah.
The background of that leading to freedom's path. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I bet.
You try your best to live that out. So when the opportunity presents itself, it's like, this what was calling me all along. I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I've been so blessed to start doing, let's see, what was the first, I'm trying to think of the first kind of true story. I think it was called The Lady and the Lynching. It was a story about Ida B. Wells.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know anything about her, she fought against lynching around the turn of the century, a powerful, famous Black woman. I got to do that project, which was a PBS project way back in the day. We're talking about in the 70s. And I played the character that inspired her because she saw me being strung up and lynched, a guy named Frog James, who had only been trying to stand up for what was right and end up getting, horribly dealt with. And this changed her whole life, and she spent her whole life fighting against that. And then I did the Scottsboro boys.
Right.
Those young, precious boys accused by the white girl of, raping her, which later she recanted, but they had spent years in jail as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
So all these type projects would start coming up, presenting themselves to me. Almost like the ancestors are speaking and saying, I want you to do these kind of projects as well. So I've always been tied in to how real this history is. If you look at some of the things I've done, you'll see it. Wow, he's telling. And I couldn't have tried to write that out. I couldn't have tried to make that happen. It was an unfolding in a very organic way that the universe was giving me. I received it wholeheartedly. If this is how I'm to be used, use me like this.
Yeah.
I surrendered.
Cool.
I surrendered to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
So you certainly have a lot of things that are definitely close to your heart. But was there a project that is a little less known that is also close to your heart that you would wish had gotten a little more love?
Yes. It was a project I did about 30 years ago. And we did it, but nobody wanted to touch it. So we did what Oscar Michaud and people like that, the old Black filmmakers, they had to take it city by city themselves to art houses, to whoever would let them show it. So that's what we end up doing with this particular project that was very close to my heart. It's called Sankofa, Sankofa. And But here's how funny life works. 30 years later, Ava DuVernay, who's a powerhouse in the film business now, as you all know, she saw it and made a deal with Netflix and say, this is an important film. I want you guys to re-release this. So here, almost 30 years later, Netflix re-released Sankofa to an audience that never even knew about it or had the opportunity to see where it was coming from. Once again, the whole ancestor thing. I don't know how you guys look at all of that, but to me, it's all very real and it can become very personal.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this story is about the transformation of a young woman who had been so disconnected from her heritage that she was lost in the world. And the ancestors grabbed hold to her and took her on a journey to show her the pain and sorrow and the struggle it took for them to get her to where she is today, surely not to be lost the way she was. And she went through a transformation and ended up finding her place again in life. I love stories like that.
That's very
That
cool.
transformational power of what we do. So never write something off, because you never know how it all plays back. Who would have thought that would have happened?
Right.
I'm like, wow, how great it is. You know what I mean? When you experience these things over and over, you don't have to be convinced. You know there's something at work in all of this. Some people say God, some people say the universe, some people say higher power. However they deal with it all, the bottom line is that it is what it is. And it is real as you and I here sitting talking to each other. So that's a great story that shows you how I want to walk this out in faith. And not to sweat the little stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not sweating that stuff. Come on.
Right.
Let life teach me and let life play it out. Then I know it's going to work out in my favor.
There you go.
Yeah. And here's Freedom Path. You
There you
know,
go.
a wonderful film that just the night we took everybody, man, people were crying, young and old. It didn't matter. Because it reaches inside, it reached deep inside you to help you remember that we're all a part of this struggle for on freedom's path. It's not something that just happened there or over there. It's what's going on in your life, my life, her life right now. We trying to find our freedom's path out of the lies you've been told. It's a sobering thing to wake up one day and realize that a lot of your life has been one big lie. I don't know if that's happened to you guys, but I know it's happened to me. And the deconstruction of your life, you know, by these events, and you have to go back and examine everything. It can be so crushing and devastating, but necessary for your transformation. And that's the path I've been on, which is what I call the real freedom's path. Going back and stripping away all the lies that you built your life on, or that you were told from a kid by mom and dad and sister and brother and teacher and preacher and whoever. And you made it your own story, but it wasn't your story. It was kind of imposed upon you so you could get along in society, so you could make it through. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And that's been the search for me. And even the work I've done in film, TV, and theater, all has been a part of helping me really search my soul out in the deepest way. I owe so much to the theater, to the film and television. These characters have taught me some things about myself I wouldn't have learned any other way. No way I could have.
Right.
That's why we go sit in the dark. We go sit in the dark because we know we're going to experience something. We know it.
Yeah.
We like little kids and we want to go sit in the dark and watch that.
Yeah.
Because it's us watching a part of ourselves up there. And something's going to happen from that. We know it. We're not quite sure what, but we know something's going to happen. And that's how I feel whenever I still go in the movies and sit in that dark like a little kid. Even though
Absolutely.
even though I'm 72. I'm that
Yeah.
little kid in there with the popcorn and all, because something's going to happen.
Yeah.
You guys know it, don't you? Right?
Oh,
Don't you feel
absolutely.
that way?
Oh,
Something's
absolutely.
going to happen in here tonight. I don't know.
And it's fun too, is that experience can be anything from that first chord of the Star Wars theme song, or when the Marvel logo goes up on the screen and you're just like,
Yeah. I love it.
oh, it's the best.
Absolutely.
Or even just like the THX like sound. The ooh, I know. Yeah.
Fills the room.
Gets
It's
you every
exciting.
time.
Gets you ready to sit there and watch the movie. Popcorn in hand, Coke in hand. Let's do this. So,
Look, in our lifetime, all of that might change.
I hope
I don't want it. I don't want it to, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in that theater experience with what's going on with the technology, cable, streaming. It
worries me. I hope it doesn't go away.
It concerns me too, because we need that experience.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
That's who we are. That's a part of who we are.
And you have
So I
anything
hope
from
it never goes away.
you have anything from the excitement and the joy of movies when, like, I mean, I've got a 4-year-old daughter. You go and we took her to Sing 2 when it came out in theaters. And that's a fantastic experience, taking a little kid to the movies. And then most recently, my husband and I went and saw Wakanda Forever together and sobbed through the whole movie. And it's like, those are two vastly different experiences, but they are so much of the human experience.
Yeah.
Yes. Now you're talking, Steve.
See, we
That's
miss out.
how we do it.
We miss out on those things collectively. I mean, it's one thing when you view them at home and you can have a reaction, but I also think about going to other movies where, even like, so to go back to another superhero movie, but the reaction of in Avengers when Captain America gets Thor's hammer and hearing the whole crowd erupt when Black Panther comes back through the portal and you see, Chadwick Boseman standing there and just, man, that rush that you get from seeing movies like that and big, these big cinematic moments in history, those will be lost forever if we're all just sitting at home with Netflix and a bowl of popcorn. It's a completely different feeling. I don't care how good your TV is. I don't care how good your theater room is.
Well,
if
how
it's just
big that screen is, you got
it doesn't matter. It's a whole different thing. It's just and it's just you and a couple other people. It's not the same. It's not the same.
So that's something to keep an eye on, because we don't know what the evolution of that really is going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think about it. I think about it a lot, because I've seen the business change the 40 plus years I've been in it. I've seen all the different. I'm like, oh wow, what is my place in all of this now?
Oh, I'm sure.
Many actors are asking that question. What is my place in all of this now?
Yeah.
So I have to search out a new path for myself now, because it's all changed.
I bet.
Absolutely.
All right, Afemo, we're at a spot in our show where we had to do one of two things with our guests. We've gotten to this point. You've gotten it through all the questions. You've survived. All right. So one of two things happens. We either take our guest through a quiz, or we ask them one final, what we call the silly question. And so tonight we're going to do a silly question.
All right.
All right. Not that we haven't already asked you a couple silly questions, but this is like technically the silly question of the show. Okay.
As silly as it gets.
So you can answer this as serious or silly as you see fit. Here it is. If you had to be shipwrecked on a deserted island, but all your human needs, your food, clothing, water, shelter, all those things were all taken care of. They were there. What two items would you need to still make sure we're with you?
A musical instrument that I didn't know how to play, could be a guitar or a flute, something like that. I would have to have something like that. And the other thing I would have to have would be some honey.
Okay.
Have to have the honey.
There you go.
I could make it with those two things.
All right.
I think I could hold on.
Some
All right.
honey from like bees or honey like.
I'm pretty sure he means honey. I'm pretty sure he means honey from the bees. So
Manuka. Got to be specific.
It's gotta be the Manuka.
From New Zealand, I love them with the Manuka now. They're medicinal.
there you go.
It's
All
good.
right.
Yeah. And some kind of instrument that would help keep me sane in those long nights or where it's like, oh my, this it for me. I think that would give me hope. No matter how bad I sounded, I could still find some connection to that little castaway place.
There you go.
I mean,
All right.
Tom Hanks had a volleyball, so.
Wilson.
Oh man, definitely. That's a whole nother thing when you just said that. I have been blessed to have classic lines that people still shout out to me, you know.
Mhm.
What's your
Oh, I bet.
purpose in this army? Go! You know, or don't make me take off my sunglasses. Bringing out the dead with Nick Cage. Don't make me take off my sunglasses because there's gonna be some whooped up in here, okay? Oh man, yeah, that's a whole nother thing because you never know if that's gonna work out like that. When you do these projects, you don't know if they're gonna be a hit or a classic. You
Mhm.
don't. It's taking a shot in the dark.
Sure.
Even those who say, "Oh, we knew when we read this script it was going." No, I've seen many scripts that read good, but it didn't come out like that.
Didn't transfer.
So I've been blessed to work with the Martin Scorseses, the Bob Zemeckis, you know, David Nutter, and just wonderful, wonderful people. John Landis, who they taught you along the way, and that's how you do it.
Mhm.
You let these masters tell you and teach you the little nuggets that they can give you if they choose to or not. But if you got the wrong attitude, man, nobody wants to fool with you. You know,
Absolutely.
you know it all already. So what do you want from me? No. I've seen people blow opportunity. I'll tell you a magic moment for me too is when my mom took me to first see Dr. Zhivago. I was so blown away with that. I was like, wow, this is movie making. I was just a young kid, but the scope of it and the whole, I'm like, yes. Dr. Zhivago will always be one of my all-time favorites because it hits every spot in what you know could be the human experience. Oh man, yeah, Omar Sharif, go on with your bad. That was a bad dude, y'all. Okay? Women couldn't get enough of this guy. He was it. The young crew don't know about people like that now. They think it's all about them. Nah, you got to go back and see these guys at their best, and you realize, like,
oh yeah.
Wow, I got a ways to go. You sure do. Look at these guys at their best in their prime. See, I had the blessing to study these guys. I could see them. I could study them, watch their work. So I know I wasn't going to get carried away with myself because I always could look and see, wow, this is real stardom. This is how the real stars do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I like some of these young guys. Don't get me wrong. I ain't trying to throw shade. I'm trying to throw shade. I like some of these young guys. They can always learn by going back and look at some of these masters.
Study the masters.
The men of those days. They knew their stuff. You can only get better by going and look at their stuff and learn and read about them.
I saw a sign once that said, "You may be cool, but are you Sidney Poitier cool?"
True.
And my firm answer to that was no, I am not. I got a ways to go for that one.
The closest I can get is they call me Mr. Tibbs. You gotta get that cool, man. See, that's the essence of what you just said. That's it, man. I always admired that and said, yeah, that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
48, cool, you know. Oh, man. Yeah, so I've been blessed, like I said. I got to play his father, believe it or not. This is how whack our business is. The Simple Life of Noah Dearborn. It was a Hallmark production. And in the flashback, I'm his father, and he's about 12, 13. I'm teaching him different things because he becomes a great builder, and he knows how to build, a mason, all of these skills. But I'm passing away, and I'm like, I want to pass this on to you. You know, here it is. Take it. And he's watching me slowly succumb to this medical situation. And then it flashes back, and he's sitting in his chair, the real Sidney at the time he is in the project, and he comes back, but he's flashing back to that. And I thought that was so cool. I get to play his father. I'm like, how cool is that, man?
Yeah.
I never forgot that too. That's one of my favorite things, looking back at that. And
That's
he was
very
so
cool.
kind to me, so nice. I got to meet my idol, this guy.
Man.
And he
Excellent.
didn't disappoint me like some of the people I've looked up to in the business. When I finally got to work with them, I was so disappointed because they were complete buttholes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Disrespectful, mean-spirited, just disgusting. But because they were the stars, people let them get away with a lot of stuff.
Right.
I had no tolerance. I had no tolerance for that.
Right.
Trust me. And they didn't try to test me either. Big black man that they wasn't sure of. They were always, you know, like,
I don't blame him.
let's let this guy be, because we don't know where he'll come from on this.
There you go.
I wouldn't test it. Mm-mm.
That's the other part of our business, that it doesn't have to be. I never respected that because it didn't have to be. You don't have to talk down to people, mistreat people, and throw things at people because you're having a star tantrum. Please grow up. Some of these people, it's best you don't know them, because you might be disappointed when you really find out how they can be.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to share that with you. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
it's good. Appreciate it.
After 40 plus years, you've worked with all the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen it all.
They do tell you should never meet your idols, and I think that's exactly why.
I understand that now. I do. But here's the sad part: it doesn't have to be like that,
It
though.
doesn't.
Well, too many times they buy into their own whatever around them, their, you know, whatever the aura that people put around them, they start taking that in and making it the, you know, part of their ego, their personality, and they,
True.
you know,
True. And they
Yeah.
start acting it out like, I have a right, entitled to be like this, to do this.
yeah,
And your job is to just take it and accept it, because I am the star after all.
And
Right.
yeah, and far too
man.
frequently it is they've been getting away with it. People allow them to get away with it, so then they continue doing it.
Exactly. You've heard all the stories that came out of things they should have been stopped doing a while back.
I
But
have a
Right.
4-year-old. It's
Turn
really
their
not that much different.
And people turned their heads because they were making the money or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and they turned a blind eye, and they're responsible too for a lot of this foolishness in our business, man.
oh sure,
I
But
do not like it.
if
Trust me.
people started treating them like the 4-year-olds they were acting like, things would be different.
and you get a timeout, and you get a timeout, and you get
Right?
a timeout.
Go think about what you just said.
Exactly, man.
Would you want somebody
So
to talk to you that way?
Yes. Right. Because I always used to tell them, you're going to get the right person one day, my friend. And it's
Mhm.
not going to be pleasant, because they're not going to care about your money, your stardom, none of that stuff.
Nope.
They're going to rip into you like you don't want to believe. I would tell them, I said, don't go that path. Sooner
There
or
you go.
later, it will happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, Afemo, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and some of your works?
They can go to Omilami at the number 4 Hosea.org. That's AOMILAMI at the number 4 HOSEA.org. Because this is work that goes on all year round that my wife and I, we wouldn't want to be doing anything else, especially when COVID hit. We never missed a beat. We were out there feeding people under the bridges, you know, in the shelters. Our staff put themselves at risk because it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes what you become that.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the difference. You become the message. You become what that work is. You start doing it so long, it's what you become. It's what you are.
Right.
And
you're no longer living to serve. You're serving to live.
That's it. And one of the greatest things Dr. King said in one of his speeches, a lot of people don't quote, at the end of it, he said, life's most persistent question is, what are you doing for others? Oh man, the day I ran across that part in his speech many years ago, I put it on my office door and it constantly reminds me that is the question I have to answer one day.
Yeah.
What am I doing? So I love when I see a lot of these stars and celebrities giving back and doing great things with their money and time.
Yeah.
Because it's the right thing for you to do. Look what you've been given: money, fame, a platform. Why wouldn't you use that to do good in the world?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Shame on those who don't want to do anything to help anybody. I don't get that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So Hosea Helps, Hosea Feed the Hungry is a work that's born out of the civil rights movement. I'm sure Dr. King will be proud of what we are doing.
I think so.
After all, he gave his life for sanitation workers to get a better deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think he would be as well.
I think he would be pleased. And that means a lot to me to know that my elders, my ancestors, those who came before me, worked so hard that we could have the voting rights and all the things we have. And to know we're helping our community grow stronger by serving.
Yeah.
That is it for me, man. Movies are love. I'm glad to have the opportunities to do it, but it's not my life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
At the end of this, I want them to say, hey, Afemo, he was out there trying to help somebody, man. That means more to me than me getting the Oscar and Golden Globe, all of that. Yeah, all of that's good.
Those are just trophies that are going to sit on the shelf and collect dust. What you're doing with Hosea Helps is so much bigger and is going to live on so much longer than any of those awards would ever do. And so we are definitely going to link that website so that people can go and see what you're doing so that they can get involved in it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please do that because they give me so much more than I could ever give them, the people I serve. That's the whole part people don't understand. They give me more than I could ever give them. And I'm forever grateful and thankful to the precious souls I get to serve.
Mm-hmm.
They are such a blessing to me. So guys, you have blessed me by letting me just free flow with things I normally don't get to get into, you know?
Oh, good.
It poured out of me in such an organic way. I knew it was right. And it was fun. And I enjoy sharing that part of me that I normally keep keep that under wraps or something. You know what I mean?
Well, we find here on our show that it's, to use the Shrek analogy, that you're not an ogre, but you do have layers. And so it's good to see, it's good to see the layers of the people that we talk to. And
we're going with that one instead of the better out than in.
Right now, yes. Right now, yes. We're going to go with layers. Afemo has layers, and it's nice to see all the layers at play.
You're talking, guys.
So, guys, we also
Freedom's path.
Yes,
Freedom's
absolutely.
path. Please go out, everybody. Help get that word out. They need it. They didn't have the big marketing budget, but they are worthy of it. They're worthy of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we'll make sure to put some the trailer links and some information about Freedom's Path in our show notes down below as well. Everybody will be able to check that out and see that as well. And two, guys, we want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to make sure that we get more amazing guests like Afemo here, so we can have these great conversations and funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps us more than you will ever know. And please go check out Hosea Helps and his new movie, Freedom's Path. Both of these are amazing projects. Hosea Helps, as he indicated, is helping people and feeding the needy who really, well, that's our job. We have to take care of those who are less fortunate. So please go check out both of those, see what you can do to help. And if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the drill sergeant from Forrest Gump. Now, the problem is that the drill sergeant has zero issues with telling us where we screwed up. And we're all fragilely and emotionally scarred podcasters, so keep that in mind. And also, send your complaint form in triplicate. You know how the government loves extra paperwork and redundancies. We're just saying. However, just know that when the drill sergeant comes for us, and he will come for us, it's going to happen. We gave him a couple opportunities this show alone. But we will have the cleanest studio in podcasting history, because nothing is going to teach us humility like cleaning our podcasting studio or bedroom with a toothbrush and promising the drill sergeant that we will do whatever you tell me to do, drill sergeant.
Oh, Afemo, thank you so much for this. This was wonderful.
Oh, wow. Thank you, truly. I needed that. That really brought joy to my soul. Thank you all for that.
Thank you. We really enjoyed having you, and thank you so much for your time tonight.
Yes. Brett, I'm glad you're going to be with Brett Smith.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful person, and you guys are going to have a wonderful experience tomorrow. So you're going to tomorrow to see it, right?
And not to see the movie, but to talk with Brett. But I'm going to try and go see the movie.
See the movie.
As soon as I can.
I got to look it up, see where it is, where the closest cinema is to me that has it. But I'm going to look it up.
Come on, you got to do that now.
I will. I don't say things just to say it. I will do it.
Okay.
Definitely.
Hold you guys to that. I know where you live. I know. The drill sergeant has his ways, okay?
He's like, I've been online with you long enough. I've done my research. Y'all are screwed. So, all right, guys, that's going to finish us up for the FSF PopCast. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye. Ciao.
Copyright 2023 FSF PopCast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.